Hi, I'm Olivia.
And I'm Amy.
And this is a Girls in Marketing podcast. Every week, we release a new episode that you won't want to miss. Our guests are industry experts with amazing experiences, so you'll always come away with new nuggets of wisdom. From educational and inspiring episodes covering the latest in digital marketing to casual and fun chats with the Girls in Marketing team, unpacking marketing myths and trends, we've got it all.
Here at Girls in Marketing, we're all about empowering and supporting women to be the best marketers they can be through our online learning platform and community. Check out our resources and membership to get involved, as we'd love to welcome you to our inner circle.
Right, let's dive into an episode together.
Hi and welcome back to the Girls in Marketing podcast. Today I'm joined by Hannah Anderson, Managing Director at Kyma Media and co-founder of Social Chain. Today we are going to be talking all things social media, creator economy, social media platforms that maybe have been a little bit forgotten. So if you're interested in any of those things, then definitely keep listening. Hi Hannah, it's lovely to have you with us today.
Thank you.
So I thought to start things off before we get into the nitty-gritty detail of everything in your career, social media, it would be really good for our listeners to explore a little bit of a background about how you really first got into social. So I know it's something that you've been involved in for a really, really long time, and it kind of started from a personal interest, really, didn't it? And
yeah, 100%.
What actually sort of sparked that for you way back when you first got into social?
You know what? I think I was just fascinated. I think as someone kind of growing up when I did, I was born in 1992. So, you know, when I was going through late high school and then into sixth form was when these things like MySpace cropped up, and then later on Facebook did as I went into sixth form. And I think I was just like fascinated by this like new like world and this new way of communicating. And it was around that time, maybe 2008, 2009, where everyone was just making Facebook pages for the fun of it. And like, it would be like, you know, it would just be like statements, and people would like the Facebook page. And I was like, I want to see if I can have a go at that. So that my first ever Facebook page was called I Could Always Do With a Good Sandwich.
Was it?
Yeah. And it was like just this like weird social media page where I just posted about the sandwiches that I'd had that day.
Like photos and stuff?
Yeah, I just posted like, I had a ham and cheese toastie today. What did you have? And like, there'd be like 3 people commenting like, I had a chicken and bacon. And like I remember inviting everyone in my school and like the page. I even logged onto my brother's Facebook page when he wasn't like in his bedroom. I went in and went on his computer and invited everyone from his year. And people would be like, Hannah, will you stop inviting us to your sandwich page? And yeah, that got like 2,000 likes. But like that was like the first thing for me that just like fascinated me, and it got me like into it. And then I went to university. Actually, I was planning to be a primary school teacher since I was like 5.
Oh wow.
But I couldn't like get away from this like, I don't know, this fascination. And that was when Twitter kind of was bubbling up, and that's where I started my Twitter pages. And again, it was like this weird thing that like nobody else was doing.
Yeah.
But then there was like me in my bedroom, like making Harry Potter memes and like building like hundreds of thousands of followers for the fun of it.
Really? On like meme pages and stuff?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I had like,
yeah.
When was this? Like 2012, 2013 was when I really took off on Twitter. And I had a page about Harry Potter, which ended up by the time, by the time it got deleted by Twitter, which is a whole other story, but ended up on like 500,000 followers. I had one called Primary School Probs, which was about like primary school memories.
I feel like I definitely have seen that.
Yeah, it was a good time, and that blew up. That got about 100,000 followers in a week.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And that was like my first.
It's crazy, isn't it? Because I often speak to the team at Girls in Marketing about kind of social media and stuff like that. And I'm older than they are. I'm a 1993 baby. And so I remember the MySpace, the Facebook, like the emergence of all of these social media platforms that were just like so brand new. It was a completely different way of like engaging with not only friends, but also, the first time really of having that opportunity to, like pages and be involved in these sorts of communities really that were just not something that you'd ever had exposure to
No.
before, and there was so much opportunity there. I remember liking all sorts of pages, like quotes from films and just like random stuff, and it'd be like, you'd share it with your friends and it'd just be like hilarious, and looking back it's just like, was it? But at the time it was just so new and so novel that I can kind of see how you like really got hooked with that and thought like, how could I take this further?
100%. And there was never a plan of like, I want to get into social media because I know I can build a career out of it. That was like never. It was I'm doing this because there's like thousands of people laughing at my jokes on the other side of that screen, and that felt good. And that was all it was. Like seeing the numbers tick up, seeing the followers tick up, like that was where the addiction really came from. It was like, oh, how can I make this bigger? Because it makes me feel like, I'm funny, or like that I understand people. And, I always compare it in those early days to like, it must be a very similar feeling to what like a comedian gets standing up on stage and having thousands of people laugh at the jokes. And that's like the same feeling that I got whenever I posted a new thing on primary school problems, which, would be like something like, when the teacher told you the story of the kid who swung too far back on his chair, cracked his head open and died.
And that got like, story.
Yeah, it got like 40,000 retweets, and I was like, 40,000 people think I'm funny.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's cool. That was what it was. That was the
it's
cool
so
thing.
easy to see how that could get really addictive. And it's, well, as we know, social media really can be, can't it? But if you're behind one of those accounts that's really taken off, really doing well, like you say, people find you funny, you're like this comedian, and you've gotten this validation from people that you don't even know. It's like, that could quite quickly become something that you think, I don't know in what capacity, but I want more of this.
Yeah,
I don't want to give up on
100%.
this. That's amazing. 100%. So then you went on to co-found Social Chain at 22.
Yeah.
And obviously I imagine that was quite a step up in your career, and, quite quickly it, transformed into something that, grew very quickly. And, I imagine quite a lot of responsibility and kind of stuff came with that as the team grew and things like that. How did you find navigating that at the age of 22, having, like you said, kind of been thinking of going into teaching and having this route set out for yourself from such a young age? How did you navigate that, huge step change in what you then did with Social Chain?
I think it's an interesting one because I never planned it. I never wanted it, really. Do you know what I mean? Like it was just something that I took a risk on. I had, I graduated from uni. I'm a qualified teacher, still am to this day. Like that's never going to go away. Fully qualified as a primary school teacher. I had this path on one hand and this path of like the unknown on the other, and like I just had to like see what I could get out of it. And thank God I did, because I think I would have, dropped out of teaching very, very quickly, as a lot of my like teacher friends have, because the state of the education system is, again, for another day. But took this like very like wild route that we didn't know what it was going to become. And in terms of navigating it, I think like, because it was never, for me anyway, I think, you look at Steve and you look at Dom, and it was very like much more, they had a plan. They wanted to, build a business to become X, Y, and Z. I never had that. I just wanted to do what I loved doing every day. And like, that was all that I showed up to work, and I wrote my tweets, and I managed the campaigns in the early days anyways. And it just was this kind of like natural evolution of like, right, well, I've got a team member now. Well, how do I make them feel secure and supported, and all of that good stuff. And luckily, a lot of the stuff that I'd actually learned when training to be a teacher kind of helps. Like,
I can imagine that actually.
A class of 30 kids, not really that different to 30 people in the team, or, in terms of how you treat people, you treat them with respect, you want to help them develop, and that's very similar. But yeah, I think I just never like really like thought about it, how am I handling this? I just kind of took it day by day and
went with it.
And went with it.
Yeah.
Like learned along the way, learned a lot, failed a lot.
Yeah. I think, to be honest, it's something that comes up quite a lot with people in our community, that kind of either having a career path in mind, going to university and studying a particular thing, and then falling into marketing after uni, or just, you know, finding an interest in some area of marketing and going into it, or starting a career in something and actually then deciding this isn't for me, and then career changing into marketing. And, you know, I think it happens quite a lot, those untraditional routes into it. And I think you have just kind of got to give yourself to it and just see what happens with it. And I think looking too far ahead with anything, for me, is always it's a bit pointless, and you've just got to kind of see where it goes.
100%.
But I think it's interesting, obviously, that your interest and love for social media then did evolve into a career. How was that? Did you find that your love for social media, I mean, I imagine it really did grow, because obviously you're still doing it now. So, you know, I think I know the answer to that. But how did it sort of change, you know, your relationship with social media, going from something that you did as like a personal thing that was just like a hobby and something that you found really fun, to then obviously working in it? Like, how did you find that change in working in social?
I still do like love it. I'm still very fascinated with it to this day. I think something that I had to do was kind of set boundaries for myself, because I think for anyone who works in social, if your day-to-day job is social and then you go home and you relax by scrolling through Twitter or scrolling through TikTok, that's like unhealthy. And especially in the early days, like there was no switching off. So it kind of like dulled my relationship with it a little bit. And I have a very like interesting like path with social that kind of don't really touch it on a personal sense now.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And I didn't like, I do a little bit, but I don't like, you know, I'm not trying to like build my personal Instagram, for example, because I did that once and it wasn't good for me on my mental health. But I definitely like, I had to set boundaries and had to say, like, you know, don't, you know, it's tricky to describe. Like, say, for example, I can't put value on myself if a page does well or it doesn't do well, because sometimes, like, the platforms, the algorithms will say, no, that's not going to work anymore. And if you, like, attach your personal value to how many followers you can build or how well a page can do or whatever it is, then that's quite damaging. So I still have a love for social, and I still have a fascination about it, and I find it very simple to understand, if that makes sense. Like I can like read it well, and like the analytics and all that jazz. But I definitely have to kind of separate myself from it a lot more than I did in those early days.
Yeah, I think that's so relatable as well. I think for anyone working, particularly in social, but also working in marketing, you know, where, you know, things like social are potentially a part of your role, I think finding that balance can be really tricky, especially when people are starting out in their careers. And it can be something that can, I think, lead to a bit of a burnout of, I'm doing this all day and I'm not switching off from it at night, because all I'm doing then is focusing on, you know, my own social media, or just even if you're not trying to build up your own social accounts, just being on social media and consuming content all the time. It's actually so exhausting to then, you know, have to think about it from a strategic perspective and, you know, think about it from a work mentality. And then I find, because I do it as well, and I don't necessarily at the moment work directly in social, but we do work in social as a team. And even when I'm like not working and I'm consuming, I find myself still thinking about things from a marketing perspective with that marketing head on. And then I'm finding that like it's an evening and I'm not fully switching off. And it's just like, I can't really turn to social for that anymore. So I totally get what you mean about that. And I think it's just finding what works for you, what 100%. The right balance is. And even if it's that you can kind of spend more time on a platform personally, that you don't really spend as much time on in a work capacity, because that could help kind of, you know, be a bit of a barrier. Like from my perspective, like we don't really work all that much in Twitter. And so Twitter for me is quite a nice place to go to just, I mean, it can be quite toxic at times, but it's just a place to go to just like mindlessly scroll and, you know, see like recent updates and news and all that sort of stuff. So I think that helps me a bit. But you obviously, at the moment, and like working at Kyma, you work massively in the creator economy with loads of big names, big creators and stuff like that. What would you say it's probably difficult to say, but what do you enjoy most about working with creators and kind of creating content with them for their socials and stuff? Like how how have you found going from, you know, your own social media and stuff like that to, like working with creators and stuff? What do you enjoy most about that?
I think for me at the minute, I think the whole social space is veered towards creators. So, you know, one, there's more opportunity there. Two, it's the platforms want creators. So at Social Chain, you know, going back 2 years ago when I was there, my job was to build the pages that Social Chain owned and build the brands that Social Chain owned. Now, you know, the social platforms, they didn't really care. Like they you know, they didn't really, unless you were Lad Bible, like they didn't like care too much about us, about like nurturing us as a media publisher and things like that. Yeah. You flip to creators and like, I think everyone can see at the minute the social space is the creator economy now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, a lot of it is. So there's so much opportunity there, and the platforms care. The platforms want creators on their platforms. There's it's just like it is a bit of the word of the moment, the creator economy, but there is, because that's where the attention is. That's where the attention of audiences are. Yeah. And it's just so exciting to be a part of. You know, you see creators going beyond anything that we ever thought that they could be. You know, you even going back 5 years, would you think that, you know, one of the top drinks businesses in the world would be ran by 2 YouTubers? No,
absolutely not. It is wild, I think, how that has changed so much, and how, you know, social media and those platforms have shifted so much to focusing on creators and stuff. And then you're right, there is so much potential there. So I imagine that is super rewarding. And you work with a really impressive roster of different creators across different channels and stuff like that. And I guess, how do you finding what the right approach to social is with each of those individuals, and what's right for them, their message, what they do, you know, the audiences that they have? Like, how do you go about finding that right balance?
So for context, for anyone listening, one of Kyma's main services is what we call social syndication, which is essentially where we help big creators build on platforms that they don't necessarily have time for. So you might take a YouTuber, we would then help them build their Facebook presence, their Snapchat Discover presence, everything like that. So we work with about 50 on the syndication roster. So they're very, very different, loads of like different content styles. So just off the top of my head, so we work with KSI, so we manage his Facebook page, his Snapchat Discover page. A lot of his content is like reaction content. On the other side of the spectrum, we work with a creator called Soft White Underbelly, which is a guy called Mark out in America, who interviews a lot of people from disadvantaged backgrounds, a lot of people on Skid Row in LA, I think it is. Fantastic interviews with, you know, just really showcasing the different side of America, people whose voices don't always get amplified as much as they should be. Yeah. Fantastic. And then we have like Save and Grace podcast, which is GK Barry, and that is again on the total opposite end of the spectrum.
Completely different, yeah.
She's absolutely hilarious, but as you can see, totally different, like different people, different views, different ways of creating content. And that's the same for every single one of our 50 creators. And obviously we have a different strategy for every single one, but the underlying theory across social remains the same. And it's just applying that theory to those people in those pages. So I'll use Facebook as an example. So take Grace as an example, GK Barry. She has long form podcasts similar to this, where she's just talking away, but it's a bit more NS, a bit fun, not safe for work. But she puts the hour-long version onto YouTube, right? Now, you can't just lift and shift that onto Facebook, because people on Facebook, if you imagine your average everyday Facebook scroller, they're literally scrolling. You need to really catch their attention. If you put an hour-long video up, it's got an intro. Hey guys, welcome to welcome to my podcast. Today we've got this person on. We're going to be talking about this, and this. Everyone on Facebook's gone. So what our team do is we sift through that 1 hour long podcast. We find the most engaging aspects. We make it perfect for Facebook. So that is adding subtitles so that people scrolling without sound, they can see what the first couple of seconds say.
Yeah, and that's super important. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Might add like a meme bar, which is something like you'll see on Facebook all the time, which is like a text at the start of a video on the top in like block, just describing what's going on in the video. Or what I like to say is creating almost like a curiosity gap, or posing a question in the audience's head that they can only answer by watching the video.
Yeah.
So it's all those like little theories. Now we'll apply that similar theory to every single creator who we work with, and the videos that they have. And Snapchat's ever so slightly different, so you have to have like thumbnails for things. So obviously you want to drive more clicks through to watch something. So the strategies for everyone and the way that we edit the videos are different, but humans at the end of the day are all wired very, very similar. So it's all just about capturing their attention on the particular platforms that we're working on.
And using what you learned from just doing it
100%,
as much as you do to apply it to
100%.
everyone. Yeah. I mean, I can imagine you can get loads of clickable content from the likes of the Saving Grace podcast and stuff. So there's loads, I imagine, that you can clip and put on Facebook and get watches for and things. But it's interesting that you mentioned Facebook and Snapchat and stuff, because obviously in recent years, I mean, we were talking earlier about kind of the MySpace side of things and everything like that, where social kind of started. But now, obviously, we know TikTok is absolutely huge. And I know a lot of those creators are quite big on TikTok. But I think that, maybe Facebook and Snapchat are some of the platforms that personally, I don't really use Facebook quite as much as I used to as a consumer. I'm personally as well not on Snapchat anymore either. But I know that they're still really big platforms and obviously still have very active and engaged audiences. So what's kind of your view on not focusing too much just on those, big now platforms and making sure that you continue? Because obviously that's what you do at Kyma, isn't it? Focusing on the platforms that the creators don't maybe have as much time for, that's maybe like the YouTubes and the TikToks and stuff. How important do you see that being for creators to ensure that they're doing?
It's massively important. I mean, there's several reasons. So number one, the power is always in the platform's hands. I mean, you look at TikTok at the minute, in the US at the minute, there's a story at the moment where they're potentially going to ban it. I know that happened a couple of years ago, I think it was, when they were potentially going to ban it back then. But that could happen. That could happen. TikTok could be gone tomorrow. Yeah. Or your account could get banned tomorrow on YouTube. You never know. You're living on rented ground as a creator on these platforms, unless you own your platform or you own, your content. So podcasting is something where you own that, because you can put a podcast on Apple, Spotify, you could host it on your own website and it would belong to you. Yeah. Whereas a YouTube channel, YouTube could turn that off any day. Facebook could turn that off. Like I've experienced. So the Twitter accounts that I was mentioning before, they no longer exist because in 2018, Twitter deleted them all. So
you've experienced firsthand that it can just go.
10 million followers gone overnight, gone, and they've never come back. Now, I might be able to get them back because the rules on Twitter have recently changed where you can apply to get them back, but gone overnight. Like so much of our business at the time was Twitter. At Social Chain was Twitter. We were known for it, and it was gone overnight. And now creators have to treat their platforms like that because they can be gone overnight. And the way that you can kind of mitigate that risk is by spreading yourself across different platforms. So if you're a YouTuber, you have an opportunity to, earn revenue on YouTube, but Facebook pays, good money to a lot of creators. You can still get massive views on that platform, massive views, massive reach and revenue, mid-roll advertisement, all that good stuff. Is still there on Facebook. And similarly for Snapchat, if you can get a Discover Show, which is a closed platform, but again, they're offering relatively, good RPMs on there. And also the Snap Star program for creators. Again, it's just an additional way to monetize. And I think I don't personally use Snapchat. I'm not in that, it just doesn't necessarily appeal to me. I don't feel like I need to use it. But if you're a creator and you're not looking at these other avenues, then you're one, missing out on revenue, two, missing out on an audience that might, that you might be able to tap into. And three, you are at risk. And anyone in any form of business or, you know, a creator should be doing everything in their power to mitigate that.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. And you know, just from a marketing perspective in general, what you're saying about not owning the platform and the risk of it just kind of disappearing at any given moment. It's what, you know, as marketers, we always kind of say, you know, don't rely too much on those channels that you don't own, you know, build your email lists, you know, work on your blog, work on your SEO and your website and that sort of content as well, stuff that you own that you know can't be taken from you. Because at the end of the day, even just, you know, focusing just on one social media platform, the second that might disappear, that could be your whole marketing strategy just disappeared, your whole audience just gone. So yeah, it's so important. But I think it's really interesting to hear from you how those channels can really work alongside some of the bigger ones that creators are maybe more known on and, you know, maybe have more following on, but actually supplementally it's all benefiting them 100%. And, you know, they can still make money from them and they can still have like really big audiences, engaged audiences, but, you know, not to just focus on those main channels, even if you personally don't use them.
Especially like TikTokers as well, like, you know, the monetization opportunities on TikTok are not there yet. So if you want to, you know, if you want to create content for a living, build your TikTok because the opportunities will come and, you know, there's brand partnerships and things. Yeah. But you can make some actual money on Facebook, some actual money on these other platforms.
Yeah, definitely. And then from working with creators so much, and obviously quite a broad range of different creators in, you know, different industries and that sort of stuff, I know that the term influencer and the concept of creators being, obviously it's not as new now as it was, but I still think that there can be some maybe preconceptions and, you know, kind of preconceived ideas about influencers and creators that, you know, people have. What would you say are kind of maybe some of the most common ones, maybe about creators and influencers that you'd say you maybe don't necessarily agree with from, you know, having worked with them?
I think the one that I totally disagree with is that, like, it's an easy job. Or, you know, you just film 10 minutes and put it up on YouTube. No way. That's such a misconception. Like, the job of a creator is that of a, you know, it's a videographer, it's a video editor, it's a designer, it's also finance, HR, it's everything. You know, it's sales. You know, you're selling yourself, you're trying to get brand deals.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's like, what did I count there? Seven jobs in one for the majority of creators, especially those who are starting out. Now, the creators that get to a certain point can hire businesses like Kyma. We don't only do content syndication where we can help them with the, you know, the editing and all that good stuff, and their social, but we also can help them get brand deals, manage their inbox, all that amazing stuff. But that gives the creator the time to actually go and focus on what they do best, which is creating. But I think anyone could look at, again, to use KSI and Logan as an example, you know, they do now, like, they just, you know, they've just uploaded videos and then they've got all this money coming in from all this. If you knew how much went into that, that wouldn't be a question that you would ask. Not only are they creating, but they're running several businesses. You know, KSI is part of the Sidemen as well, which is a whole other thing. They have Sides, which is like a food delivery thing. They have Prime, obviously, with KSI and Logan. You know, JJ has these Misfits boxing. Like, he is a entrepreneur, and I know for a fact that a lot of people will look at that and go, oh, you know, it's just luck. It's not luck when you look, you know, 15 years ago when he was starting out and he grinded every day without getting any money. Like, it's not luck. It's really, really hard work.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Because I genuinely think that the people who say, you know, oh, it's luck and it's just, you know, they don't deserve it, they've not earned it, whatever. Like, look back at these creators now who are really big, where they started, what they were doing, you know, the work they were putting in, you know, really kind of investing in these platforms before they were getting anything out of it.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, just building up their content, building up their craft, working on what they do because they loved it. And yeah, I think that it's quite a naive thing to think that anyone who's successful as an influencer, as a creator, is not working really, really hard behind the scenes. And, you know, although it may, what we see looks really glamorous and looks really easy and looks like, oh, I wish I could be doing that instead of sitting in an office, actually behind the scenes, there's so much more to it, isn't
Yeah.
there? But you said obviously about, at Kyma, you can support with other things, getting brand partnerships and all that sort of stuff. So for anyone listening who works kind of on the other side and works for brands who maybe, work in influencer marketing or work in, any capacity where they would work with creators, what kind of advice would you give to brands about harnessing that, the power that can come with working with creators? How would you advise that brands can go about getting the most out of those sorts of partnerships?
I think I'll start by saying what not to do. The worst examples where I've seen brands work with creators is where they give the creators no creative control. So do the opposite of that.
Yeah.
Give the creator creative control. Get that creator involved with the idea that you have from the outset, because that's where you're going to get the best ideas. A creator knows their audience better than anyone in the world. So if you want to get the best out of creators, have the creator involved from day dot in that idea, in what's going to be the best way to partner. That's kind of what I would say is like my number one thing is give the creator creative control. Don't push back. Don't push like crappy adverts, because that's, people just zoom past. They're the main things.
Yeah, and I imagine that any creators that, that actually would add value to a brand, the value, that they're going to add is what they can bring as an individual, isn't it? It's not going to be, oh, look, it's a famous face, but we'll just get them to be a robot and do what we want them to do, because what's the point?
Yeah.
Like, you could have anyone do that. And I think consumers are so much more savvy nowadays to what is a really authentic partnership, what feels natural, what, I always find that the best kind of partnerships are the ones where you'll see someone's content and it's you don't immediately realise that it's even a partnership, because it's it's someone that you really believe that this person would work with. It really fits their brand. It
100%.
Feels like their tone of voice. It's something that they'd say. It's not someone's given them a script and this feels really completely off brand for them, because it's never going to land with anyone. And I think that brands that hold that really tight control, like you say, they're wasting their money, I think. And I think even not, if you don't work in social, if you don't work with creators, if you don't work in marketing or whatever, I think that that's something that you can just spot a mile off anyway, regardless.
Absolutely. I think it's interesting as well how it's kind of changed and developed over the past maybe 6-7 years. And audiences are actually they're actually fine with creators advertising. I remember 6-7 years ago, if someone put an advert in their YouTube video or brand partnership or what have you, the audience would be like, you're an absolute sellout, you're this, you're that, can't believe you would advertise to us. Whereas because the market is massively matured, all they care about is it, like you said, is it being an authentic partnership, is something that they know that the creator would enjoy, that they know the creator would like. And as long as it hits those couple of things, then they're like, yes, get that bread. That's the shift. So I think authenticity is, again, it's a bit of a buzzword, but I think, just kind of strip it back to if the creator would actually use this, then it's probably going to be a good fit.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that for brands who are maybe starting out, that's definitely a good place to start, isn't it? Probably a difficult question to answer, but I'm really intrigued to know if you do have a favourite, or maybe someone that you've really enjoyed working with specifically from a creative perspective. Is there anyone that you've, worked on particular campaigns with that have been, really exciting and have just really kind of have got you so excited about working with them before that, maybe stands out to you that you could share with us?
I'm going to go with someone who I've got a really, really good relationship with. So is Jeremy Lynch. So he's part of the F2 Freestylers. He's now got I think he's got 17 million on TikTok or something.
Yeah,
but he's been a creator for a long time. And the reason I like working with him is because he's very honest and we have a very honest relationship. No, am I allowed to swear on here?
Yeah.
No bullshit.
There we go.
And that's the type of person who I like working with.
Yeah.
I feel like we are just incredibly honest with one another. If he doesn't want to do something or he has an opinion on something, then he tells me. And if I have one, I tell him. So I think that type of relationship is the type that I really like with people. but yeah, loads of creators who I love working with, and like loads who are like I still get like excited when we like sign a new creator to syndication.
That's amazing.
Like,
I can imagine that probably doesn't really go away, does it?
No, because I'm just like a fan of their work, and like when we signed KSI, like that was an unbelievable day.
Yeah.
We've got 2 in the pipeline at the minute who aren't signed, so I can't say who they are, but like it is so exciting.
That is exciting. Oh, I feel like I can't believe you dropped a tease like that and you can't tell us. Well, we'll keep a lookout anyway. Yeah, definitely. So at Kyma, I know when we've spoken before, you've kind of talked about how you approach social media management in a way that's maybe potentially a little bit different to the way that other social media agencies and stuff kind of would approach it. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and how it kind of works for you guys at Kyma?
Yeah, sure. So I'm very aware that one, we're in a lucky position at Kyma to have quite a large team, but I know that there'll be a lot of social media managers out there who are one-man bands who, as a social media manager, you are a copywriter, you're a designer, you're a video editor, you're a marketer, you're everything in one. You're an analyst. And at Kyma, we, straight away when I joined Kyma, it was a team of 5, and we had I think we had like one social media manager, and God bless him, he was doing everything. He was editing the videos, he was sourcing the content, he was posting the content, he was analysing the content, and straight away I was like, that doesn't work. It's such a different skill. Social media management is a skill set in its own, separate to video editing, separate to design, separate to analysis. Although analysis is probably the one that comes the closest, social analysis anyways. But I'm a massive believer in like a social media manager is someone who lives and breathes social, understands it, understands humans on a very intricate level, understands how to make someone act. Like that's all we're doing at the end of the day is where we are trying to get someone to do something, whether it's like a video, whether it's watch a video, whether it's comment. That's all we're trying to do is get someone to act. And that's the job of a social media manager, is to get that person on the other side of the screen to do what you want to do. Now, the mediums in which you do that through, the videos, the photos, or whatever, it's your job to guide that, but you shouldn't have to be a video editor to be a social media manager. I can't edit videos. I can't, do design.
It's a whole separate skill, isn't it?
A whole separate skill. So that's kind of how we approach it. And literally within the first 2 months at Kyma, that's what I did. I separated out the social media team, the video team, and we've kept it the same ever since. We have social video, social media, thumbnail design, because that's the main thing that we need designing at the minute. And then we have a wonderful senior analyst called Connor, who is just a genius, and he kind of strings across the lot. But yeah, to any social media manager who's also a video editor, everything, I feel you, and I hope you're all right.
Yeah. Oh, honestly, I mean, it's amazing. Obviously, like you say, you're quite lucky at Kyma to be able to do that. And it's amazing that you do, and to have that infrastructure to be able to allow people to really lean into those specific skills that they have and then bring them all together to create that end product that actually really works, and everyone's doing exactly what they should be doing in terms of what their skill set is. And unfortunately there are so many businesses out there that just don't have that capacity. And I think that the importance of social is, it's becoming more acknowledged, and I do think that more brands are starting to realise the importance of social media and quite how much goes into it. Like you say, you're doing maybe 10 different jobs all in one, and I think that brands are getting better at acknowledging that and bringing on more people in some of those specific roles to support things. But equally, I think there's a long way to go before there really is kind of a true reflection within an organisation of all of those different people that actually add up to making what social media is and what it's all made up of, what all the component parts are.
We've definitely come a long way. Yeah. Definitely, but you've got to think the industry has only been around, really for 10 years, if that. And even for the first 5, we were still fighting, fighting brands to be like, I promise it's going to do well. I promise it's going to get ROI. I promise. We're still in that still there with a lot of legacy brands who who are unable to move as quickly. But yeah, I totally agree with there's still a way to go, and I think we'll get there. I do think we'll get there. But to all social media managers listening, like, fight for that. Fight for, if whomever wants the best results, then they need, the right people and the right skill sets. To do so.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that I see people kind of talking about doing like training in social media and things like that. But again, it's what actually that training looks like. Is the training in the role of what a social media manager should be, or is it a training that's a bit of everything? Because, people acknowledge that you should be doing everything. But it's interesting what you say about kind of what stage we're at now. And we're still kind of in that growth phase of like really seeing the impact that social can have and stuff like that. How do you, as a final question before we finish, how do you see, what would you predict that kind of social media and the creator economy is going to look like in maybe the next 5-10 years? What do you picture that to look like versus now?
So I'm that person who I have a stance on this. Anytime I get asked what social will look like, what the creator economy will look like in 5-10 years, I say I haven't got the foggiest. I haven't got a clue, because if you'd asked me that question 5 years ago, would I have told you anywhere near what we are here today?
Yeah.
No, I haven't got a clue. I mean, there's certain things that I think, we need to take into account, like AI. I know is a big thing at the minute, and I do think we would be naive to kind of brush that kind of thing off. I think the capabilities are growing very, very fast there. So that might be something we need to take into consideration. But what that'll mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Similarly with the platforms, like, if you'd asked me 5 years ago, would TikTok win, as it was called back then, like, was it Musical.ly?
Yeah.
I'd be like, nah.
Absolutely
I'd be
not.
like flash in a pan, like, no way. And then we're here today where it's massive, and I spend more time on there than I would care to admit.
Don't we all?
Yeah. But that's the thing. Like, I think, I'm very, like, not against making predictions, but I just think, like,
Yeah.
anyone who says, oh, it's going to be like this in 5 years, you're wrong. Like, you are 100% wrong. And if you're right, like, fair play, go and put the lottery on.
I was going to say, you wouldn't, I think it's definitely something that you wouldn't put money on, would you?
Nah.
You'd never, ever put any money on saying, I know exactly what things are going to look like.
Not
because
at all.
things just change so much. Like, even individual platforms themselves, like, the changes, like, they're so volatile. Like, things are just honestly changing so quickly that as marketers, trying to keep up with it just day to day, never mind 5 years from now, it's really hard. So I don't blame you for not taking a stance on that, to be fair. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Hannah. It's been so lovely to have you today.
Thanks so much for joining us for another episode of the Girls in Marketing podcast. We love hearing from you, so if you enjoyed this episode, leave us a review to let us know your thoughts, and make sure you hit the subscribe or follow button to be the first to hear when our new episodes release. Don't forget, if you want to get involved with Girls in Marketing, check out our membership to join our incredible community of marketers. Think marketing resources, courses, webinars, and more. Find out more on our website or drop us a message on any of our social channels at Girls in Marketing. That's all from us today, so have a wonderful week, and we'll see you back here for another episode.